I will attach the crescograph to this fern. The magnification is tremendous. If a snail's crawl were enlarged in the same proportion, the creature would appear to be travelling like an express train. My gaze was fixed eagerly on the screen that reflected the magnified fern shadow. Minute life movements were now clearly perceptible. The plant was growing very slowly before my fascinated eyes. The scientist touched the tip of the fern with a small metal bar. The developing pantomime came to an abrupt halt, resuming its eloquent rhythms as soon as the rod was withdrawn. You saw how any slight outside interference is detrimental to the sensitive tissues? Bose remarked. Watch, I shall now administer chloroform and then give an antidote. The effect of the chloroform discontinued all growth. The antidote was revivifying. The revolutionary gestures on the screen held me more raptly than a movie plot. My companion, here in the role of villain, thrust a sharp instrument through a part of the fern. Pain was indicated by spasmodic flutters. When he passed a razor partially through the stem, the shadow was violently agitated, then still itself with the final punctuation of death. By first chloroforming a huge tree, I achieved a successful transplantation. Usually such monarchs of the forest die very quickly after being moved. Jagdish smiled happily as he recounted the life-saving maneuver. Graphs of my delicate apparatus have proved that trees possess a circulatory system. Their sap movements correspond to the blood pressure of animal bodies. The ascent of sap is not explicable on the mechanical grounds ordinarily advanced, such as capillary attraction. The phenomena has been revealed through the crescograph as the activity of living cells. Peristaltic waves issue from a cylindrical tube that extends down a tree and serves as an actual heart. The more deeply we perceive, the more striking becomes the evidence that a uniform plan links every form in manifold nature. The great scientist pointed to another Bose instrument. I shall show you experiments on a piece of tin. The life force in metals responds adversely or beneficially to stimuli. Ink markings will register the various reactions. Deeply engrossed, I watched the graph that recorded the characteristic waves of atomic structure. When the professor applied chloroform to the tin, the vibratory writing stopped. They recommenced as the metal slowly regained its normal state. My companion dispensed a poisonous chemical. Simultaneously with the quivering end of the tin, the needle dramatically wrote in the chart a death notice. The scientist said, Bose instruments have demonstrated that metals such as the steel used in scissors and machinery are subject to fatigue and regain efficiency by periodic rest. The life pulse in metals is seriously harmed or even extinguished through the application of electric currents or heavy pressure. I looked around the room at the numerous inventions, eloquent testimony of a tireless ingenuity. Sir, it is lamentable that mass agricultural development is not speeded by fuller use of your marvelous mechanisms. Speed is too high. Would it not be easily possible to employ some of them in quick laboratory experiments to indicate the influence of various types of fertilizers on plant growth? You are right. Countless uses of Bose instruments will be made by future generations. The scientist seldom knows contemporaneous reward. It is enough to possess the joy of creative service. With expressions of unreserved gratitude to the indefatigable sage, I took my leave. Can the astonishing fertility of his genius ever be exhausted? I thought. No diminution came with the years. Inventing an intricate instrument, the resonant cardiograph, Bose then pursued extensive researches on innumerable Indian plants. An enormous unsuspected pharmacopoeia of useful drugs was revealed. The cardiograph is constructed with an unerring accuracy by which a 1/100th part of a second is indicated on a graph. Resonant records measure infinitesimal pulsations in plant, animal, and human structure. The great botanist predicted that use of his cardiograph will lead to vivisection on plants instead of animals. Side-by-side recordings of the effects of a medicine given simultaneously to a plant and an animal have shown astoundingly unanimity in result. He pointed out, everything in man has been foreshadowed in the plant. Experimentation on vegetation will contribute to the lessening of animal and human suffering. Years later, Bose's pioneer plant findings were substantiated by other scientists. Work done in 1938 at Columbia University was reported by the New York Times as follows. It has been determined in the past few years that when the nerves transmit messages between the brain and other parts of the body, tiny electrical impulses are being generated. These impulses have been measured by delicate galvanometers and magnified millions of times by modern amplifying apparatus. Until now, no satisfactory method had been found to study the passage of the impulses along the nerve fibers in living animals or man because of the great speed with which these impulses travel. Dr. K.S. Cole and H.R. Curtis reported having discovered that the long single cells of the freshwater plant Nightella, used frequently in goldfish bowls, are virtually identical with those of single nerve fibers. Furthermore, they found that Nightella fibers, on being excited, propagate electrical waves that are similar in every way, except velocity, to those of the nerve fibers in animals and man. The electrical nerve impulses in the plant were found to be much slower than those in animals. This discovery was therefore seized upon by the Columbia workers as a means for taking slow motion pictures of the passage of the electrical impulses in nerves. The Nightella plant thus may become a sort of Rosetta Stone for deciphering the closely guarded secrets close to the very borderland of mind and matter. The poet Rabindranath Tagore was a stalwart friend of India's idealistic scientist. To him the sweet Bengali singer addressed the following lines: O hermit, call thou in the authentic words of that old hymn called Sam. Rise, awake, call to the man who boasts his shastric lore. From vain pedantic wranglings profitless, call to that foolish braggart to come forth. Out on the face of nature, this broad earth, send forth this call unto thy scholar band. Together round thy sacrifice of fire, let them all gather, so may our India, our ancient land, unto herself return. O once again return to steadfast work, to duty and devotion, to her trance of earnest meditation let her sit, once more unruffled, greedless, strifeless, pure. O once again upon her lofty seat and platform, teacher of all lands.